All right, guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS live stream going over the WGC Workday Championship as well as the Puerto Rico Open. Yes, we're going to be covering both of them. So if you guys have a question on either of the tournaments, definitely feel free to pop in. Once again, I kind of mentioned this in passing. I really don't understand why the Puerto Rico Open, a PGA Tour event, isn't like covered as much as in like the WGC event. Obviously, there's a bigger edge, there's better odds and whatnot. I mean, Thomas Peters, the top ranked player on DraftKings this week, is 18-1 outright there, where you can get DJ like 5-1. So I don't really get why people don't like dive down into the Puerto Rico Open as much. I mean, there's money to be won either way. So we'll be covering both of them for you guys. Okay. So Charlie's wondering, answer as a core play. Well, see, I sort of do. So like my strategy today, I could have been more clear about it. So my strategy this week for the WGC event, really like any other no cut event, and like this is something I should have touched on a little bit more, is that you really want to studs and duds it. You really want to have at least one value play in there, because we know that the most optimal lineup path, especially this week, considering the fact that it's a no cut event, the best lineup will come with at least one value play hitting. For me, I think Abraham Answer is just a standout play at his price point. I also really like Lanto Griffin, but you can take the risk there with some of the other plays. Now, the question was, do I like Abraham Answer or Will Zalatoris more? I like Will Zalatoris more. I like his upside a little bit more, but honestly, it's not a bad question as a whole, because those two are kind of similar. I kind of want to bring that one up here just to compare it, because it's really not a bad question. So I'm actually going to do that. So typing in Will Zalatoris and then Abraham Answer. Oh, darn it. So give it a second to load here. So, I mean, you can kind of see here, not a huge difference. Abraham Answer ranked 22nd in the model, whereas Will Zalatoris ranked 15th. Now, Answer, he's had some okay finishes. Really, what we're wanting from Answer, and this is why I like him as a pick, it's that as a value play, at his price point, all we need him to do is finish in the top half, and that's going to help us win money this week. Whereas Will Zalatoris, he's a high upside play. You're trying to get that high upside that we've seen recently from him, and he's a good stat fit. He's a guy where if he goes out and has a solid week this week, it's not going to be surprising at all. But yeah, if I had to choose between the two, it would be Zalatoris, just because of his upside. Look at strokes gained tee to green, 13th in that. Strokes gained differential, 14th in that. Strokes gained approach, 9th. I wish he was doing a little bit better, like ball striking and total driving. I do think that this is going to be a course where you just have to be playing well with your golf game. A lot of these guys are playing this course for the first time, or for the first time in like 5 years or so. So I wish he had a little bit more control of his golf game as a whole, but I don't mind him. Hey, what's up, Jeffrey? So Webb, Berger week. I do like both of those guys. Honestly, like Webb is a very underlooked play this week, I feel like. No one's giving him chatter, and I get it. This is a course where it's going to set up two ways. This is something I wrote up on the 9 to 5 write-up. It's going to set up two ways, where golfer A, the one that has, really solid driving distance, is going to be able to bomb and gouge this course and take advantage of it due to their length, because it is a longer course. Or the kind of golfers that think it out are going to avoid the big numbers. Those golfers that are in control of their golf game are going to avoid those big numbers, not going to push the golf course, but play it how it needs to be played, and they're going to play well. So obviously golfer B would be Webb Simpson. So honestly, I could see Webb having a strong week. I feel like it is going to be a little bit yay or nay with him. Like either it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. But I don't know. I think it's worth the risk as like decreased ownership this week. And I know I made my rant last week about ownership, how it doesn't matter. Well, in a no-cut event, it actually does a little bit, because everyone's on the same player. You have ownerships priced up a little bit more. And there's typically a lot of bad chalk or players that are underowned in the WGC events. I don't really get why that happens more frequently with the WGC event as opposed to other events. But like your likelihood of kind of, I guess, having a chalky lineup with 6 of your golfers in this lineup could actually happen. Like Lanto's going to be chalky, Palmer's going to be chalky, probably Answer's going to be a little chalky. Neiman I haven't heard that much of, which is kind of surprising, but the path to a chalky lineup is a lot greater with a reduced field, where my point with the full tournament field event is that anyway, you might end up on like 4 chalky players, but the way you close out your build is going to be extremely different than pretty much everyone else. It's hard to have a similar build to everyone when you're making that many builds in a full tournament field event. So that's it. I'm playing Lanto Palmer, Rom, DJ Hovland. I like those. Those are good. What is that price point range there, Charlie? I'll be able to help you out there. I do want to pull up Daniel Berger as well, since you mentioned him. I don't exactly know what to do with him. I really don't. I'm a little bit worried about him. Just because I'm not on him. I'm choosing to fade him this week. This could be the Tony Finau last week where I almost included him on the player pool, but I was like, I don't want to make my player pool too big. It is a WGC event, a no-cut event. So I didn't end up on him, which worries me a little bit. Because we can see it right there, strong total putter, 5th best stat rank play in the field this week. Once again, I look at long-term stats over the 2021 season. That's what I'm looking at. Grades out really well. We look at his past no-cut events, a 2nd, 17th, and a 10th place finish. He's not a bad play. Troy, I appreciate that, man. Golf Guru, Eric Paulzine, I appreciate that. Might have to come up with something there. Mr. 9 to 5, if you will. That's a new one. Just thought of that right now, sadly. I probably should have thought of that before. But yeah. What about Daniel Berger? So yeah. Daniel Berger, he's a player that I'm fading this week that I probably shouldn't be. Once again, that just goes back to the point where you can't be on everyone, especially in a week like this. He was the last person I left out of my player pool. That didn't work out last week with Tony Finau. It kind of is what it is. I'm on. Who am I on? I'm just going to count up. 1, 2, 3. I'm on 8 players on the top end there. The high tier price point range, like that's a lot of players. And I know my ownerships are kind of spread out there, but you gotta make a stopping point somewhere. Lee Berger out your own risk. I'm not saying he's a bad play. I'm just saying, so I'm on Patrick Reed a little bit. He is actually seeming chalky, so I got off of him. And then Webb Simpson, I think, he sets up really well. I think Brooks Koepka, if people were betting Brooks Koepka, or if they were on Brooks Koepka 2 weeks ago, they should be doubling up their ownership or doubling up their bets on him this week, because he's a much better play. Pretty much you got lucky 2 weeks ago. Double dip that chip and let's go after it this week. I actually like Brooks Koepka this week if he continues that form, is kind of the point I'm trying to make. But Bryson, I like him. He's got good length. And then, some of the other players on the top end are just going to be safe plays. It's kind of what it is. I'm on Todd this week. So Brendan Todd, that is, let's see it. Let's see why. Kind of surprising to me. Brendan Todd, really. So he did catch my eye for about a good 30 seconds. Then I moved on. And I try to find a better play than him. So let me see kind of what your thoughts are with him, why it's popping for you. So, with Brendan Todd, you would think that his opportunities gained would be a little bit better. 121 in that. Brendan Todd, he's a guy where he's just setting himself up for opportunities pretty much, or that's kind of his game last year, where he hasn't done that this year. 4th in total putting. Yes, I get it. 6.4. Honestly, if you make your most optimal build and then have 6.5 left over for your 6th player in and just add it in, made 20 lineups and just edited it 19 times to throw in a different value play down left their end, I wouldn't mind it. Obviously, one of these guys are going to go off, and I'm not saying it's not going to be Brendan Todd. I just did not end up on him. Honestly, though, if you're playing him, I think that's the approach that you're going with. Obviously, trying to do that studs and duds approach, so I don't mind that. See, I'll pull Berger and Hovland here for example purposes. And I know some other live chats get mad when you guys talk together. I really don't care. I want you guys to talk together and talk through stuff. It's a community base here, 9 to 5 sports. I want you guys to talk them over. So Daniel Berger and Hovland. All right, so Hovland's getting knocked because, well, let's look at his starts at no-cut events, 59th. And this is the last WGC event. I didn't label it on this certain web page, but on the other. player data or the cheat sheet I did, but this was the STOC, this was the Zozo, and this was the CJ Cup. So really not, his best finish was 12th for the last no-cut events. When we look at Daniel Berger, his worst finish was 28th, then 17th, then 10th, and then 2nd. So, no-cut events, Daniel Berger's really been able to take advantage of those extra opportunities, and they've both been playing solid golf recently. Stat-wise, let me kind of just compare the two. We'll start with Hovland. So it's weird. So Hovland is one of those strange picks where he's strong in strokes gained tee to green, but driving distance is not exactly strong for him. Just kind of an observation I've seen, but strong in total driving, strong in ball striking, top 11 stat fit. We worry about his putting. It's kind of been weird, the amount of quality players that have been struggling on greens this year, just as a whole. Kind of a weird thing I've noticed. Maybe I should look at this more, because I've noticed this a lot, and it's a thought that I haven't had until just now. They come out with new equipment, pretty much at the start of every year, like 2021, a lot of new equipment, players switched over. I wonder if there's something to that where players got like new putters, so they're not putting as well right away. They're still trying to get used to that putter. Maybe that's what happened to Kyle Morikawa as well. I don't know. That's something I need to look into more. Kind of an interesting thought there. But, Hovland as a whole, top 10 stat rank play. Let's look at Berger. 5th. So I favor Berger more. That's kind of my thing. Is there a high tier play that's making me nervous? Yes, infamous, there is. I mean, honestly, all of them. It's like last week where, in a full tournament field, you pretty much know who's going to make the cut and whatnot, especially on the high end. And there's some risky plays that you'll take here and there. Whereas this week, it's all about scoring. They're all going to get 4 rounds. So like Patrick Cantlay, I'm worried about that. I'm going to pay $10K for him. And he's a super safe play, but how much upside are we really getting from him? That's my biggest worry with him. I am very worried about him. I feel like he's a safe play, locking in like a top 20, but really at his price point, we want to get a top 12 finish, and I'm pretty worried about him. And then same could be said for like, I'm really on Bryson. I'm kind of taking a risk here. I know you saw the write-up point that I made there on this one. I'm curious as to some of the other people here in the chat as to this thought as well. It's kind of out there so it's hard to explain. So if you ever work out and then go play a golf game, your muscles are all tight, they're kind of good to go. Swinging the golf club is like much more natural, and it feels much more comfortable. You're in control of your golf ball a lot. Watching Bryson last week, it really seemed like his body was fatigued. It seemed like his muscles were kind of deflated, if you will. Just, you could tell that maybe the workout routine that he's getting in or has been in is starting to taper off, because his workout routine is something that is not sustainable in the long term. It's something you can do in the short term, but at some point, doing all that working out and all that eating, for sure, you can't maintain it. So I'm wondering if he's kind of on the tail end of that now. He's trying to taper off, and we could see his golf game start to be a little bit inconsistent. That being said, he did play well in his last 9 holes, so I'm kind of hanging my hat on that. Obviously, 1st in strokes gained tee to green, 3rd in strokes gained differential. Opportunities gained could be a little bit better, but 10th in strokes gained approach. This is a course where if length does matter, he should play better, but that's also kind of why I'm on Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka, I'm really just hanging my hat on his most recent finish. Ever shot a basketball after lifting? I'm going to get into that question. So, bicep day, I cannot miss. Honestly, I cannot miss after doing biceps. Everything else, just trash. You ever do triceps and then try to shoot a basketball? It's like you're freaking throwing a baseball. Just nothing going in. It's kind of fun because you suck, and it's just fun to gotta see what works, see how bad you shoot it. But honestly, bicep day, if I just do biceps, that thing is all natural, and I'm draining shots. It's kind of a little cheat code that I did for myself back in the intramural college days. The fun stuff. Let's see here. Webb and Todd should hit every fairway. So that, going back to Todd, he hasn't exactly been doing that. He should be able to do that. He just hasn't been doing it exactly. So that's kind of my worry with him as a play this week. I want to see Matt Kuchar kind of compared to him. He's been a little bit better in opportunities gained, where he's setting himself up for hitting fairways, hitting greens, giving himself an opportunity to make a putt. So maybe I know what you're going for there. Honestly, I've ended up on like Lucas Herbert a little bit, and then Wade Osby. I look up these names when I can't say them, and it just did not come out right. But I don't mind him as well, kind of as a deep value. But I'd rather go with like Sebastian Munoz for me personally. But let's see here. Live chat over the Awesemo one. Hey, those guys are all about quantity. Throwing that out there. I appreciate all you guys being in here, actually. I do want to start doing this time. I'm seeing a lot more chatter in the chat. We can start doing that. If that's something you guys want, kind of let me know and I can make that happen. Instead of the 4 o'clock one, we can see. It's half an hour to an hour. It's a lot of fun here. Closing out the night before the tournament starts. All right, let's see here. Only on top because of price. Yeah. I get the. I don't want to talk you off a play. I never want to be the one to talk someone off of a play. I know Charlie mentioned at the top end that I think he went with Sink instead of Furyk. I was pretty much even on Sink and Furyk last week. I felt Furyk was a little bit safer, but Sink had much more upside. I was chasing his upside a lot last week, Sink's upside. So I apologize for that if that was the case. And actually, I'd have to double check. I think Sink was the only miscut for the value plays as well. So I'm sorry if that happened there. Let's see here. Gonna segue into kind of the betting picks here, but I'm gonna keep up with the chat as well. Appreciate that. Hit the like button. That does help the channel. Honestly, a lot of channels will tell you guys to hit the like button or comment. The main reason why is because that helps the channel. That's the easiest way you can help the channel. Pick one, Xander or Finau. I'm going to go with Xander. He's just safer. Kind of just my approach this week is that Xander in a no-cut event, he's pretty much a poor man's. That's not even the saying anymore because him and JT are pretty much the same. Those two in no-cut events are pretty much just, I don't want to say locked into like a top 12, but they pretty much are. Xander playing great golf. I'm favoring him a little bit more. And Tony Finau, honestly, it's kind of impressive how well he does after really just, I don't want to say he shit the bed last week because really he played lights out on Sunday to even be in contention to possibly win. Obviously, I think he probably thought he had the tournament won after Max Homa's ball was behind a tree, and then to see Max Homa, make an incredible shot like that, it was probably a little mentally deflating for him. But what I'm saying, what's impressive to him is his ability to go out and play well after kind of a disappointing week. Honestly, it's really spectacular to me personally that he can go out and play that well after choking, if you will. I mean, it's a good quality for him. Like those both are not bad, but I'm definitely going with Xander. Shoot free throws after lifting. Don't ever do it after leg day. Let's just put it that way. Leg day, trying to go up for a rebound or even a layup, you come down wrong on that, and it is not a good feeling. You're just falling down. People are looking at you weird. It's like, dude, I just did leg day. People will get it, but they're also like, why are you playing? Oh, man. We're playing basketball after a lift is definitely something. So thoughts on Ryan Palmer. And that's actually, I kind of set that one up. I saw that earlier. So Ryan Palmer is actually 55-1. I think he started the week at 70-1. In terms of DFS play, I think he's phenomenal. In terms of an outright bet, I think he's solid as well. On the 9-5 model, he is, let me see, the third best ranked player in the model. And this is kind of where I do think we need to kind of separate it a little bit from, my model is just pulling in stuff with data. That's all it is. So sometimes, we got to take a step back from the model, and that's why it's a model. That's not why it's the end all be all. It's a great, useful tool, and it's been pretty darn accurate this season, but I would probably rank him like the 7th best player in the field personally, as opposed to the model, but you guys can see why he's grading out really well. I mean, his worst stat that we're looking at is total driving and strokes gained approach rate, ranks out 40th. That is absolutely spectacular. 8th in opportunities gained, 2nd best stat rank, top 20 in strokes gained differential and ball striking. Phenomenal play here, guys. No cut event history, worst finish 17th, and this is over the last 4 once again. Then we look at his recent form, a little bit hit or miss, but I think if we get 4 rounds out of him, which obviously we are, He's going to be a solid play. At his price point, it's kind of a no-brainer, and that's my worry with him. He's going to be chalky, and that's kind of the worry with him. And just in terms of, I said he was 55-1. Where is he at? Yeah, he was betted down he's 55-1 for example purposes. Let's find Kisner. Kisner is 100-1, and he's pretty much at the exact same price point as him. That kind of tells you a lot about Palmer as a play. And then same thing with Jason Kokrak here, kind of in the same price point as Ryan Palmer. He's 70-1. So that really tells you that kind of the general public is going to be on Ryan Palmer. And this is kind of if you guys are wondering which players are kind of chalky and not chalky, take down the odds on Monday, and then you can see which players were bet up and their odds have changed significantly. That's kind of a way that you can calculate which players are getting hyped up. It's kind of a simple way to do that. I haven't chosen to include that on the 9 to 5 page because you guys know my spiel from last week. I think ownership is kind of just the buzzword for the most part, except for this week, which it could matter this week. All right, let's see here. Hideki's price point is kind of interesting there as well. Let me pull him up. So 8.4. Let me see his recent form. Missed cut. So it had been a while since he had missed a cut, and his game has been trending in the wrong direction for a while. So it is kind of interesting to see that he finally missed a cut. I think I'm going to wait on Hideki. Especially this week. I think I want to wait and see until he has a better week. Now, it could end up being worth it. Maybe a top 20 finish. I worry about him as a play this week. Sky Scheffler has a little bit more upside, I would say. Matthew Fitzpatrick seems like he's getting a little bit of chatter. I worry about him in a lengthy golf course. Sanjay M. I think Sanjay was the best at fit in the field this week, actually. Oh, second best. He was tied with Palmer. 8.8, that does seem a little bit priced up for him. Overall, I think Joaquin Niemann is just a player that you end up on a decent amount. And, Scheffler, this dude, Sky Scheffler, just real quick, he has had some low rounds, but he's also had some blow-up rounds. Once he figures out how to be a consistent golfer, watch out, because he'd probably be the best golfer on tour, in all honesty. The guy just has to control his blow-up rounds is pretty much what it comes down to. Hey, that's all right. Can't be 100%. I apologize about the sink call. Like I said, I thought it was worth the risk, and I still think 500-1 was just BS for him last week. But kind of get into some more bets here real quick before we finish it off with the FanDuel and lineup construction talk. I do want to get into the lineup construction talk because I think that's kind of huge this weekend. It's something that, based on what I'm seeing, not many people are talking about lineup construction, and it's huge this week. Let's see here. So there's not any long shot bets right now that I'm seeing personally in terms of Wednesday night. Now, I don't mind Jason Kokrak. That's kind of why I highlighted him. Ryan Palmer, I do like a decent amount. And then Joaquin Niemann, he's been betted down a little bit. I think he started the week at 45-1. I think at 35-1, I really like him as a play. But really, kind of the best bets this week are at the Puerto Rico Open. And I know this isn't the biggest one that people want to talk about, but I kind of did this as an example. So 18-1 for the best bet, per se, on paper. Those are good odds. So if you kind of have a strong inclination of what's going to happen in this event, if you guys want the data, that's on the 9 to 5 Sports page. But Thomas Pieters 18-1 feels pretty good. And then Emiliano Grillo at 20-1, I really like. That's actually a matchup bet that I saw this week. I'm not sure if it's still there. Let me see. I really like Emiliano Grillo over Ian Poulter. This was plus money, I think, at the start of the week, and now it's not. But I like him. I like Roger Sloan over Bronson Burgoon as well in terms of matchup bets. That's kind of the approach that I would go with this week. But kind of just getting back into the tournament lines. Where's Justin Suh? So Justin Suh started the week I think it was 70-1. And he's been bet down a decent amount. So he was my favorite bet. He still is my favorite bet. If I had to pick one player to win this week at either of the tournaments, it'd be him at 45-1. Really hoping that comes true. He's kind of just been my boy this year. Played well 3 out of the 4 events. Just had one bad round. Quality staff hit, best staff hit in the field. And then Joseph Brenlet, Kramer, Hickok, both really solid stat plays. Joseph Bremlett does have some upside, and I'm actually going to try to pull him up here on the alternative event cheat sheet, which I put up on the website for this week. So let me just pull him up real quick if I can get it loaded here. Anyone watch, this is a random question, anyone watch Superman and Lois last night? I watched like 30 minutes of it. So far, impressed. My hopes are up that it's going to be a good show. Also, pretty excited for WandaVision this Friday. It's going to be a fun episode this Friday. Joseph Bremlett. I can't wait for the rest of the shows to start taking off here. Get back into the movie theater and whatnot too. That's going to be fun. But looking at 9th ranked in the model, you know, he showed upside at this event last year, top 10 finish. Overall, top 20 staff hit. He's a guy where strong driving distance hasn't exactly equated to strong strokes getting off the tee. But still, I kind of think he's worth the risk for a guy that has shown some upside on the PGA Tour recently. I don't mind him as a play. And then just going a little bit lower, nothing too much that I really want to hang my hat on. Where's Cameron Piercy, though? He's a play, 45-1 still. Yeah, his odds have decreased a lot since Monday for this tournament. Let's see if we can find a long shot here for you guys. I don't mind Ryan Brehm. I probably wouldn't place money on him, but he's a guy where I could see him top 10ing. Yeah, that's kind of it. Like DJ Trahan, I could see 125-1. I could see him, you know, playing well. In terms of the field, he ranked top 5 in opportunities gained, which isn't saying much because his field is garbage for stats. But yeah, that's not bad. And then Rob Oppenheim, 90-1. Just pull him up here as well, real quick. Show you guys what I'm seeing. I mean, this event's fun because you get a shitty pick like Rob Oppenheim, and he grades out as a top 12 staff in the field. I mean, look at how bad his stats are. We're hanging our hat on opportunities gained where he ranks 56th, and strokes gained tee to green where he ranks 75th, which actually ranks out top 5 in the field this week, which is laughable, but it's fun. 9th place finish here last year. 33rd place finish at the Corrales, which is a comp course. And then Pebble Beach made the cut, made 2 out of his last 3 cuts on tour. So top 12 staff at decent play, 90-1. I feel pretty good about that for a guy that ranks out 7th in the model. So overall, not bad. But let's get into kind of the FanDuel picks here real quick. And I heard that FanDuel, switch it real quick. I heard that FanDuel did not include the Puerto Rico Open, which is kind of sad. It kind of goes to show you guys why they're a little bit lacking in terms of, you know, being the top dog. And I don't know how many of you guys played FanDuel golf when it was 8 golfers instead of 6. You got to get 8 golfers in your build. I loved that. I used to love that. That was a competitive advantage that they had a lot of success then, and people didn't like it, so they went away from it. I thought that used to be a lot of fun. Obviously, they went away from that recently. But, you know, FanDuel is a little bit interesting as well, kind of just in terms of line of construction, once again, especially with FanDuel, where you can already normally make it work with values in there. Let's just say you want to go Sebastian Munoz, you can do that. 7.1, I just think that he's going to finish in the top half of the field. And for 7.1, that feels excellent. And then you can go Lanto Griffin. It's so annoying with FanDuel. It is. It is. You're just taking a fun event, a PGA Tour event out, and not being able to use it. But we got Xander then you can load up on. You guys, I know Daniel Berger was mentioned a lot, so I'm just going to put him in the FanDuel build for you guys, just to show you guys. Let's see here. We got 11.4 left over for our average salary remaining. Let's see. Tony, we can go Tony. And then Patrick Cantlay. I mean, look at that. It's a no-cut event. So you're getting 4 elite plays here, guys, with Cantlay, Finau, Berger, Xander. Then you're getting one of the best values, if not the best value there, in Lanto Griffin. And then you're getting Sebastian Munoz, who's probably going to finish in the top half, which in terms of trying to make a profit, which in terms of trying to cash, just a solid approach. Now, I do really like Ryan Palmer and Joaquin Niemann. Let's kind of try to do a build real quick with those two, just to see what we can come up with. Now, I'm probably still going to include Lanto as well. Let's see if we can get DJ and Rahm in there is kind of my goal with this. And just for, I want to see Answers price. So yeah, Answers priced up a lot more on FanDuel. But yeah, DJ, Rahm, and then 9.9. Don't exactly love that. You could go Homa, you could go Zatoris, you could go English, I guess. I probably wouldn't want to go that route. I'd probably want to go down from DJ slightly. Don't feel good about it. Maybe Sanjay, maybe Colin Morikawa. That feels much better. Let me just try a different approach here, too. Let's go JT. Brooks. Then how much? The 11.8 left over. That's better. I would like that approach better. So still not a bad kind of move there for FanDuel. I know the last 2 weeks, the FanDuel builds that I've made on here have been pretty solid. So kind of just, we're going to finish it up here with lineup construction. And then if you guys have any more questions, get those in. If not, I'm going to be closing up here shortly. What's your thoughts on Patrick Reed? Good short game and good putter. Let me see Patrick Reed. I'm going to pull him up here. So Patrick Reed overall, it's tough. So Patrick Reed, first in total putting, great. It's a good sign. 143rd in opportunities gained. You wonder why he has a good short game. It's because the rest of his game kind of sucks right now. Ball striking, 183. Total driving, 152. Strokes gained tee to green, 68th. So it's kind of twofold because I get why people are on him, and I get kind of why I liked him at the start of the week as well. You come to an event where kind of it's an even playing field. No one really has course history or whatnot. They're not exactly used to that. Patrick Reed is 8th in strokes gained differential. So pretty much every event that he plays at, he's always playing better than the field, no matter what event. And that's highly appealing to me this week. I am very torn between playing Patrick Reed and not playing him. Because the greens are going to be difficult, I think. Or they could play difficult. I'm not exactly sure what they set the greens to, in all honesty. If they're going to play fast, because if they are, it's going to be difficult. If they're playing slow, everyone's kind of going to be even keel. It's going to be easy, but there's a lot of greenside bunkers, which that's highly appealing for a guy like Patrick Reed, who sucks getting to the green pretty much. Around the green, he can pretty much dominate. But if he has a struggle getting used to the course, it's going to be a bad finish for him. So really, I think it's going to be more of a hit or miss play than we've really seen kind of this whole year. For no cuts, recently he's finished 21st and 14th and then 47th. Recent form, miscut, 21st finish. I mean, I get it with Patrick Reed. I'm not ending up on him. That's just it. I know around the green, you want him to be playing. It's twofold because this is why it's good to know the full picture because, yeah, Patrick Reed, his rest of his game sucks, but he's been so good around the green that it kind of explains why he's been able to do decently well. At some point, one of the two are going to drop off. It's kind of my thing. And I think he's high risk, not exactly high reward, maybe just the top 10. Obviously, he can go out and win. That wouldn't shock anyone. But I think it's almost more likely that he's going to have a bad week. And that's kind of my worry with him. I'm not saying he's a bad play. Any weather issues? I did not see any. I know I checked the weather for this event yesterday. Didn't see any for the Puerto Rico Open. I didn't see anything crazy. It was like 10 to 20 mile per hour winds. I heard they were playing fast like Riviera. So, yeah. Interesting. I think that definitely would help Patrick Reed a little bit more because if everyone's missing the greens then yeah, around the green game is going to matter a little bit more. So, maybe for a 50-50, maybe you take that. Because if the greens are playing fast, obviously balls are going to run off a little bit more into those sand traps, into the hazards, because there's a lot of green side bunkers and water. So, yeah, maybe that's kind of the approach you go with instead. What are my thoughts on Webb? Hey, Dougie. So, yeah, Webb as a whole, I don't mind. I think Webb is going to be a solid play. And this is kind of a nice, solid segue into kind of lineup construction. So, honestly, it's kind of twofold this week. You could start with Webb because I think he's kind of a natural starting point this week for a balance build. But I really don't think a balance build is going to be the approach this week, and I'll touch on that in a second. But Webb as a play, it's going to play out two ways, and I already mentioned this, but it's fine. It's either going to play two ways where because the greens could be difficult, players that set their shots up well, like Webb does, are going to do better than the players with driving distance. Either it's going to be driving distance is kind of the most key stat this week because of the length, or it's going to end up being like these smarter players like Webb, maybe like Kevin Kisner, where you kind of have to think shots through a little bit more and just play a smart golf game, have all assets of your game really in control, And so if that does play out that way, Webb is going to be a solid play, especially at 9.1. It does seem like a bad price point for him. It seems like he should be at least $600 more. I think he does make sense for like a natural starting price or play. But kind of getting into the kind of optimal lineup approach, pretty much every week, the best lineup approach to go with, the most easy lineup to go with in terms of, making a lineup that's going to cash is to just go with the mid tier, go with the 9.5 to like 7.5 players and just load up your lineup from there, because chances are those guys are going to make the cut. But this week in a no cut event, I really do think that fitting in at least one or two value plays, if you guys find a value play that you like, a secondary value play that you like, just go in on that. Obviously, you need to hit on the top end, guys, but this says we consistently see that doing a studs and duds approach lineup in an event like this, a no-cut event like this, is just the way to go. Everyone gets 4 rounds, and if you can hit on that one guy that obviously exceeds their salary price point, and really with a value play, all that you want from them is to finish in the top half, a top 25 finish, really. Anything more than that this week would be gravy. But yeah, it's just kind of it's something that I've had to do a better job at week in and week out. And for the no-cut events, because it's so hard to see Webb Simpson, Tommy Fleetwood, Sunjay M, Hideki, Justin Rose, Harris English. It's so tough to see all those quality names, knowing that you can fit them all into your builds, but the chances of one of those guys kind of having an off week and finishing maybe only 10 plus points than a value play is kind of the key there, where the difference between, let's say, John Rahm and Victor Hovland could be 30 points, could be 40 points. Once you start getting those top 5, top 4, top 3, top 2 multipliers there that DK and FanDuel both have. And it's something that's like hard to do, but it's something that you just kind of got to do with the no-cut events. Now, this week's slightly different because there are a lot of quality plays down at the bottom end. Let's see here. Bottom end of the low tier, like the 7K range. Because I really like Bubba Watson. Actually, I think a lot of people have been on him. He had been priced up a ton. He was an easy fade for a decent amount of weeks because he was always just really high priced for no reason. This week he's like 7.3K, and if it does play driving distance matters or shot shape matters, he's at a good price point. But if that's not the case, if it does play out like the Webb Simpson player, Kevin Kisner is a great price point. I think Kevin Kisner is almost the lock to play better than his price point. Like, he's almost a lock to finish better than that price point. Jason Kokrak, I like a ton as well. I think he's a phenomenal play, especially given his price point. So you could load up on guys at that low 7K range and then pay up for guys in the 9K range. You could do that approach as well. It's not exactly like a fair and balanced approach, but kind of this week it is as well. So lineup construction is definitely an interesting approach this week. For the Puerto Rico Open, I pretty much ended up on 3 guys. A ton. I don't want to say those guys directly because, I mean, you watch the core plays video, you know who they are, but, just giving that out right now in a field where there's like 1,000 lineups for each contest, we need to make sure that not everyone's getting the play. So if you guys want those, check out the core plays video. Let's see here. Moving on to final thoughts. Touch on Louis Oosthuizen. So Louis Oosthuizen was a play that I didn't end up on at all this week. If you do, I'm not going to talk you off of it. I really don't mind him as a play. 7.9. It's definitely an appealing price point for him. Overall, he doesn't rank out as a bad play. Top 20 in the model, which as price point, that's phenomenal. He's a guy that obviously can go off on any week and have a solid week. I really don't mind him as a play. I just, personally, I couldn't find a way to get on him this week. Once again, it's kind of one of those things where with the loaded field, it's with a player like Louis Oosthuizen, he's like the ultimate shoulder shrug play this week, where if you end up on him, you feel good about it. And if you don't end up on him, you're not stressing about it. That's kind of the approach this week. He's been a strong putter really this year. He's Patrick Reed pretty much at a cheaper price point, if you will. He's just a shoulder shrug play this week. And this week with the quality of field, I couldn't end up on a shoulder shrug play like that. Cam Smith as well. Cam Smith, kind of the similar thing. I do feel like Cam Smith is priced up a little bit too much. That's not to say he can't play well. We look at his last 3 starts, no-cut events, 24th, 4th, and 11th. You know, that's solid. And he's been kind of hit or miss this year. He was very consistent at the start of the year. Not a strong stat rank play, though, and that's kind of what I'm struggling with. He ranks out 33rd this week in terms of stats. And, you know, where he ranks 123rd and 128th in total driving and ball striking, 18th in strokes gain differential. That's pretty good. But 129 in opportunities gained. So I just feel like he's priced up a little bit too much. If he was $1,000 cheaper, then he'd probably be a mid-exposure play. So even if he was $1,000 cheaper, I wouldn't be locking him in, pretty much. Yeah, so Infamous, that is a strong point there. And that's kind of where you go back to your question earlier about players that I'm worried about. Bryson DeChambeau, it's like this guy could either play super aggressive and kind of shoot himself out of the tournament, or his game could be on and he could shoot himself into the tournament, especially on a course like this. That is my biggest worry this week, is that at a course like this where there is trouble, but there also is extreme reward, I'm a little bit worried about that. And there's going to be certain pin placements this week where it's going to promote that risky golf play. And it's like, if like, there's a couple of holes where Bryson could probably drive the green and set himself up for eagle. But at the same time, it's bringing in a double or possibly even a triple bogey, you know? So I'm excited for that. I'm most excited for the, like, seeing the pin plays, or not the pin, the tee placements there. Cause if they're pushed up a little bit, it's going to make for some interesting holes. Honestly, that's probably the thing I'm most looking forward to. This course looks beautiful. It kind of reminds me of the DFS Open course a little bit. Obviously, the DFS Open course was a lot shorter. This is a lot longer, but it's kind of just your typical, I think Rory said this, it's kind of just your typical Florida golf course, which to me is exciting as a whole. But yeah, I think that's all. Any questions here? If not, I'm going to be getting out of here in about 10 seconds, 12 seconds here. Do want to mention, we'll be doing the showdown coverage here for round 2, round 3, round 4. I never do round 1 coverage because it's pretty simple. Round 1 coverage, if there's a weather advantage, you just play the guys that are with the early tee times in the player pool. And then if not, you just play the players in the player pool. And for round 1, you guys can pretty much play your main build on the showdown slate. And for the most part, it's going to do well. That's kind of how simple round 1 coverage is for the most part. All right, so Dougie's wondering about Matthew Fitzpatrick. So I couldn't end up on him just because of his price point. I was kind of confused to see him at that price point, to be honest with you, above Scotty Scheffler, above Adam Scott, above Joaquin Niemann, heck, above Louis Oosthuizen, Matthew Wolff, Harris English. I was just surprised to see him above them. And I know he's coming off of that top 5 finish last week. That was spectacular. But I don't see him honestly dominating this course. Now, it could happen. I love Matthew Fitzpatrick. If I had to put like a top 10 of my favorite players, he'd probably be like 9. So I hope he plays well. He ranks 23rd in strokes gained tee to green and 20th in strokes gained approach. That's probably why, because he has a strong strokes gained approach. 55th in strokes gained differential, been putting well. He ranks out as a 35th stat rank play, though. Decent no-cut event history, 12th and a 6th place finish. I just didn't like the price point for him. Just couldn't do it. But yeah. All right, that's all I have for you guys. Charlie, appreciate it, man. It was a good show. Thanks for all the comments that you guys had. Always happy to help. It was a fun show. Got to talk about the old lifting experience there with Bryson and whatnot. It was fun. So appreciate you guys watching.